Welcome to Reclaim the Pink Within. I'm your host, Dr. Christelle Oliver Dussault, and this is your space to pause, breathe, and return to yourself. One story, one insight, one conversation at a time. Let's begin. Welcome to Reclaim the Pink Within. I'm joined today with a woman who reached out to me through LinkedIn, the beauties of the digital age, because otherwise our paths wouldn't have crossed. She is a mum of two and works in public health, and motherhood had a significant impact on her, like it does for many women, and made her reflect on what way she wanted to shape her career and her family life. So without further ado, Kelsey, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, excited to do this.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you reached out to me through LinkedIn, because you're all the way on the east coast of the States. I'm on the west coast of Canada. So it's really wonderful that we're able to make these connections. So before we kind of dive into the motherhood, would you be able to share a little bit about who you were before you became a mum, what your life looked like back then?
I grew up in a small town in the middle of Vermont, so maybe similar to some of the towns around you. Small town, knew everyone, moved to Massachusetts and got my degree in kinesiology and then got my master's in public health and kind of was navigating career life. I was always very social, hanging out with friends on the weekends, doing some small traveling, not a huge traveler, but traveling and always active and focused on my overall health. So very interested. I like to cook. So a lot of free time spent trying different recipes and entertaining friends and hanging out that way. So that was kind of life before kids.
And how did you imagine motherhood would be like? Is that something you thought about before becoming a mum?
I thought about it. I've two older sisters, and my husband also has two older siblings. So we were surrounded by kids when we got married. Our wedding had 7 kids as part of the ceremony, and have grown since then with more kids added to the family. So I think it was always was something that I thought I wanted, but
Mhm.
I always had reservations around it and was concerned and had fears around being
Mhm.
what would I be a good mom? I babysat a little bit. I never loved it and never felt like I was great with kids. Like I watched other people hang out with kids and just love it. Or I had people, that would say, I can't wait to be a mom. That's what I'm destined to be. And I never really felt
Mhm.
like that. So I knew that it
Mhm.
was something that I wanted, but it was never going to be all of me.
Yeah, it was going to be one facet of you. How would you
hmm
describe your transition into motherhood after your first child was born?
An absolute whirlwind. I did a lot of preparation for birth and pregnancy, kind of wanting to know how best to take care of myself during pregnancy and how I could best prepare for birth. So, my first was born in 2021, so kind of still COVID times. There weren't
Mhm.
really in person birth classes or the traditional birth classes that existed. So, I signed up for
Mhm.
something that was online and was kind of a self-paced course to be able to go through different modules and education around that. We watched some videos about birth, but definitely very focused on that event and
Mhm.
less so what happens after. And so then when it came to after, my oldest was born. First of all, we didn't find out if it was a boy or a girl, and I was shocked that it was a girl. So
Really?
then
You
I was
thought you
sort
were
of
gonna have
like,
a boy?
mm-hmm. And then brought her home and was like, "What do we do now? We gotta figure this out." And so my method to trying to figure it out was try to control as much as I could control in that time of trying to
Mhm.
create a schedule and really stick to that schedule. And we all know that babies are on their own schedule and they do things on their own time. And so I was never diagnosed with any kind of postpartum depression or anxiety or any mood disorder, but definitely was a difficult transition. And the circumstances hit me hard of navigating those tiny decisions that you make all day long with a newborn of
Mhm.
sleeping and eating and when to go out and who to interact. Again, it was still kind of, she was born in May, so I feel like we were a little bit lighter of being able to be outside
Mhm.
and interact with other people, but there were still decisions of how are we exposing her to germs and things like that? And I was definitely very consumed with all of those little decisions. And we are very fortunate to have my father-in-law lives in the town next over from us. And so we knew that he was going to be our caregiver and I was going to go back to
Mhm.
work. I think that I held that decision of going back to work lightly, of trying to just I wasn't sure how I was going to feel, but I was
Mhm.
very much ready to go back to work and just see how that worked out. So, I think it was just the best decision for us and our family of knowing that we had family being able to support and be a caregiver additional caregiver in the family, helped us to be able to navigate that support system.
And how did you find that? How old was your daughter when you went back to work?
3.5 months old. So,
Okay, so she's quite
yeah,
young.
yeah, mhm.
How did you find that transition?
I think there was some guilt associated with it of leaving her. I found comfort in knowing that she was with family, so that definitely helped. But then I also loved being away and being able to do different things, and I think that's where some of the guilt came into was it wasn't that I was just away, it was that I liked being away. And navigating, "Oh, this is time that I can do something for me, and I can take care of myself in these different ways. And I have a flexible job that allows me to, I was working from home some, a little bit in the office. And so when I was at home, I could fold the laundry or be able to get some things done that just helped overall manage the transition of motherhood and being able to
Yeah.
feel like it wasn't absolute chaos or there was no time to do anything.
Mhm. You mentioned that guilt of wanting space for yourself. Did you ever get the chance to reflect on why you felt that guilt, or where were there any perceived thoughts or pressures that led you to feel that emotion?
I think it's something that I still struggle with almost 5 years later of navigating
Mhm.
it, and I think that it comes from I am surrounded by a lot of women who are choosing to stay home,
Okay.
and while I know that that is, in the grand scheme of things, the minority, it's still
Mhm.
very in my close circle, and so I think that there's that aspect of comparison, and I think, today's social media of making us feel like no decision is the right decision, even though we know that it's the right decision. So I think I've
Right.
I've tried to tackle it as best as
Mhm.
I can and kind of really reflect where it's coming from and knowing that I'm making the decision, we're making the decision that's best for our family, and what's best for each of us in those different situations and finding comfort and peace in that.
Yeah, it can be hard to shut out the noise sometimes, because your normal sometimes will become your surroundings, and that might not necessarily reflect your values or how you wish to live your life within your family. What are the aspects of motherhood that you found the most challenging, or continue to find the most challenging?
I think I go back to those little decisions that there's just so many decisions that you make throughout the day,
Yeah.
with your kids and at the beginning it was navigating the sleep and the feeding, and now it's grown into still a little bit some of the sleep and the feeding of, preparing they eat 6 times a day of what are they
Mhm.
gonna eat all day long, or
Mhm.
navigating now as the kids are getting a little bit older and they're being out with other people and wanting to eat what other people are eating. I don't have that full control of what's being offered. So navigating uh, all that's being offered to them that way, or the 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 decisions of discipline and how what we're letting go of and what we're staying firm
Mhm.
on, how we're handling that those discipline or behavioral challenges that sometimes is it just a phase or is this an ongoing issue that
Mhm.
needs to be addressed? So again, it's just all of those are a constant cycle of, okay, whether I'm with them or not, it's constantly going through my mind of how we're navigating each of those decisions.
Yeah. So a lot of decision fatigue, and a lot of stress around that loss of control. How do you find, or have you found anything helpful in navigating that loss of control that
Yeah,
you
so my
once
faith
had in organized life?
Yes. My faith is really important to me. And so I think that letting go and praying through that, um, reading scripture and going back to, the foundation of our faith and knowing that I believe that God is in control. And so I think that I have to keep reminding myself of that on an ongoing
Mhm.
basis, and surrounding myself with people that are reminding me of that too.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the noise. It's
Yeah.
putting the positive noise around me as well.
Mhm. Yeah. Choosing what noise you let in and what noise you um, uh, reduce the volume on. Was
Yeah.
there a moment where you felt like you didn't recognize yourself anymore, or you felt very disconnected from the person you once were?
Um, I think I don't have a specific moment that I felt like
Mhm.
that, but I think that it was, in those early days of my first being born, feeling like I had made some kind of mistake of again not knowing how to navigate all of the changes. And so
Yeah.
I think it has taken time to find true joy
Mhm.
in having and being able to see all of the small moments. So one thing that I do and have or a practice that I have in place is I have a journal that sits by my
Mhm.
bed, and I've never been a journaler, and
Okay.
it's called One Line a Day for Moms, I think is what it's called. And
Okay.
so I just highlight something that happened throughout the day. And I'm on year 5 of it's a 5-year, schedule, and I'm on year 5 of doing it, and it's been something that's so cool to be able to look back and look at all of the
Much.
one lines that I've put in for the day. Many of them are more than one lines, and I
Yeah.
think that being able to find the positives of the day and kind of highlight
Mhm.
or have something that documents the big and small moments of joy. So
Right.
I've documented milestones of first steps or first trips or interactions with different people, but also little things like the words that get said wrong or
Yeah. Yeah.
just
Your own little
little
language.
moments. Mhm. Little moments that I can document, and I think that that's helped me to, go back to that. And I think as they're getting older and more independent and we're able to go out and do more things,
Mhm.
it's really shifted how I viewed motherhood. So I think that sometimes it's important for us all to remember that there's different phases for everything,
Mhm.
and we don't have to love every phase. And it's
Yeah.
okay if you don't love every phase.
Yeah. I think the journaling itself is even just the one line, because it's not something that's too intensive, and you're taking the time to just grab that snapshot, because we all have this internal negativity bias, so it's easy for us to go back to just all the tantrums or feeling completely overwhelmed. But when you make an effort to take those moments of joy and map them out, it can really help, particularly if you're having days that are harder than others, to reconnect with a specific moment that you put down on paper. How did your transition from one to two kids go?
Um, it was, I think, easier than I thought because my second was definitely an easier baby.
Okay.
So I think that it was being able to kind of do over the baby phase again a little bit of going back and saying, how do we want to do this phase differently?
Hmm.
I think was really helpful and just to be able to try as best as I could to enjoy those little moments of snuggles and early days of things.
Yeah.
And I think that it's been, again, kind of going back to the joy, so fun to see them interact and see their relationship grow and evolve throughout the past couple of years. And so, um, yeah, it's been fun having them. And now that, again, they're getting more independent, they're playing with each other a little bit more. That often ends up in fights, but we're navigating that as well.
Yeah.
It's just fun to see them interact and see them have little conversations with themselves with each other.
Adding referee to the list of jobs that you do as mom.
Yep.
Um, how did the transition to motherhood impact your relationships, either with your husband or friends or family? Did you notice a change in any of those?
Yeah, I think, with my husband, it's meant that we've needed 10 times more communication of navigating, again, all of those little decisions, and me trying to be intentional about not always keeping those decisions on myself. I know that there's a
Mhm.
lot of conversation about, the mental load and how we're sharing that, and I feel very fortunate to have a very supportive partner who is so active in caring and making these decisions, and so it's me needing to say, okay, we're in this together, we're doing this together. But with that means, okay, extra communication, extra figuring it out, and trying to find the time to be able to do that, I think
Yeah.
has definitely shifted things. And, we're not just disagreeing on where to go out to dinner, we're disagreeing
Mhm.
on how to handle um, behavioral challenges and discipline
Mhm.
and you know, where our kids are gonna go to school or who they're gonna hang out with and those again, bigger kids, bigger problems, bigger decisions. So navigating all of that. And then I think that with friendships, it's affected it in the sense of how we hang out. Before it was
Mhm.
just, oh, let's hang out, let's go do something, and there was much less complexities to that. And now
Mhm.
it's sort of, okay, are we hanging out with the kids or and how is that going to be? And that means that it's not going to be as quality time because it's going to be focused
Mhm.
on the kids and they're going to have their own
Mhm.
opinions and want to say things versus, okay, are we spending time, just me and another person or with a friend group and then finding out or finding care and navigating the other support that's going to have the kids.
Yeah. Do you ever find the pressure to be like a certain woman or a certain type of mother within the society that you live in?
I actually don't feel a lot of pressure, which I feel like goes back
That's
to
wonderful.
why do I why do I feel that guilt? I'm not really sure. I think that, I feel very fortunate to be surrounded by I work, I'm surrounded by mothers. My
Mhm.
social circle is surrounded by mothers, and so I think that even in those different circles of how we're making different decisions with our kids, I feel
Mhm.
fortunate to whether it's my own walls that I've put up that I don't let the pressure cave in, or it's just the situation of surrounding myself with people who are letting us make decisions that we feel are best for us. So I think that I don't feel even in those times of, "Oh, should I be working?" or, "Oh, should I be hanging out with friends? I should be with the kids." I don't
Mhm.
feel like there's this external pressure of other people making that
Mhm.
decision for me. And so I think that I feel very fortunate for that. I recently went to a conference with working moms, and there was a big
Mhm.
conversation about, motherhood in the workplace, and I think I've just been really lucky to have bosses and leadership that supports motherhood and that flexibility and
Mhm.
navigating those challenges of working and being a mom and other areas too.
Mhm. In what way has your work supported you?
I have never felt, put down or punished for needing to go to a doctor's appointment, for taking a sick day, or even when it comes to preschool
Mhm.
celebrations or, a performance that's happening, that's always something that's celebrated and supported of being able to go to those things. And so I think that that in and of itself is just huge to be able to have the flexibility and not necessarily have any negative pressure of needing to take that time to do those things to be the mom.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Really nice to hear that. What did you learn about yourself or maybe discover about yourself in these first few years of motherhood?
I think I knew I had control issues, but it just took it to a new level of, wanting to control things and um how when things were out of my control, how uncomfortable I felt in that.
Mhm.
I also I think I have this, duality of pessimism versus optimism. I think that
Mm.
I strive to be an optimistic person, but there's again kind of going back to I strive to find those moments of joy to be able to journal, but there's definitely a
Mhm.
lot of moments of those journaling over the past 5 years that are the negative times. And I think that
Mhm.
sometimes as I've looked at that and progressed, it's sometimes helpful to see those negative times to say, "Oh, I made it through that." And so I think just the ability to have strength to make it through that and to be able to know, okay, that was a season and we're going to get into a new season and things are going to keep changing.
Mhm.
I think, yeah, those are some things that I feel like I've learned.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched on the negative too, because sometimes the journaling, even getting out those negative thoughts on paper, will help you to ruminate less. And as you said, reflecting back, you're like, oh, I'm noticing these patterns and I am getting through the storm. I'm probably stronger than I realize. I want to touch on some beautiful prints that you have on the wall behind you for those of you who are watching on YouTube. She's got these beautiful watercolor flamingos. Tell me a little bit about those, and that's probably going to lead you to talk to us about your project that led us to connect.
Yeah. So after my first was born, I was introduced to the Get Your Pink Back movement and understanding that when flamingos have their babies, they lose their pink, but they can get it back too. And we
Mhm.
as women can get our pink back. And when we feel, those early times and times throughout our kids' lives that we feel just so depleted that we're giving everything to our kids, there's times that we're going to get our pink back and our color and whatever is meaningful to us. And that's going to look different for every different person. So for some people that means getting back to work. For some people that means um fitness and health and achieving, certain goals that you might set there. Or it might be spending time with your kids and watching them grow and really truly giving to them, and that could be getting your pink back too. So I've been inspired by this idea, and so I want to find all of those different women and be able to talk to them. So I'm in the process of launching a podcast called Find Your Feathers, inspired by the Get Your Pink Back movement and
Mhm.
interviewing women of how they're finding their feathers and
Mhm.
in all facets of life and all types of motherhood, their journey and what they're learning about themselves through that process.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I was really excited to hear about your project. And it's always so nice to meet other women from a different part of the world who have had similar inspiration. And I think there is a big need and desire to share stories and share how multifaceted that transition is. And it's not one size fits all. And there's, internal pressures we put on ourselves, like you mentioned, that decision fatigue, the loss of control. And then there's those external pressures that noise sometimes comes in and you really eloquently talked about, letting in the positive and letting out that doesn't serve you. So I'm really looking forward to listening to your podcast. And for those of you who are listening now, if you're wondering about where you can find all that information, I'll make sure to put it all in the show notes so that you can find Kelsey's work as well. Are there any words of wisdom, Kelsey, that you'd like to share for either women who are pregnant and about to have their first baby, or mothers who are in the throes of it and feeling completely depleted or feeling lost?
I think that a couple things. So one is finding community, whatever that looks like, and that's part of why I wanted to do this too, was to be able to share stories that you are not alone, no matter what phase you're going through, and no matter what your situation is. There's most likely someone else that's faced something similar. If it's not the exact same, it's something similar or dealing with their own challenges. I think that it's so easy to look at social media or even the the persona that we might be outside the house and how that differs from the trenches, as we like to say. And so I think that bringing together a community and being able to talk about it and talk about those challenges is so helpful, not only for
Mhm.
yourself but also for others. And I think, just knowing that everything is a phase and it's constantly changing. And so if something
Mhm.
is really hard right now, it's probably not going to be hard for that long. And if something is really great right now, you're probably going to come up with some challenges soon. And we can be encouraged by that and also reminded to enjoy all of the positive things that are happening too. I like to say instead of the ups and the downs, it's the ups and the
Mhm.
challenges of
Yeah.
of what we go through and finding, joy in those and community in the challenges and being able to rely on others of how they've navigated it and how we can navigate it too.
Yeah. The ebbs and the flows of motherhood.
Hmm.
And this too shall pass, the good and the bad. So
Hmm.
thank you very much for sharing your insights. And if any of you have any questions or would like to reach out, you can contact me at info@reclaimthepink within, and I'll make sure to include Kelsey's details down below if you'd like to reach out to her. So until next time. The information shared is for educational and general informational purposes only. Although I am a medical doctor, I am not providing medical, psychological, or professional advice specific to you or any individual. This podcast does not establish a physician-patient relationship, and the content should not be used as a substitute for personalized medical care, mental health support, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your own physician, mental health professional, or qualified healthcare provider with any questions you have regarding your health or well-being. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, I'd love for you to share it with another woman who might need it. And if you feel called, leave a rating or review. It helps grow this community. Remember, you are not lost, you are becoming. I'll see you next time on Reclaim the Pink Within.